We are very excited to speak with Dr. Brad Teague, the athletic director at the University of Central Arkansas. Dr. Teague, welcome.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on today.
It's an absolute pleasure of ours. And we'll jump right into it. Central Arkansas is one of just 14 FCS programs this fall that's playing football. How difficult has it been scheduling a 10-game season, and how did you manage to pull that off?
Yeah, the difficulty really began with the fact that our conference decided not to play this fall. And so we had to decide if we were going to go against, our conference members and the wishes of our conference commissioner. And we just felt like it made more sense to play football in the fall than to wait and see what may happen in the spring. And really, if you think about it, so a lot of FCS programs are playing a few games in the fall, a full conference schedule in the spring, and then they're going to turn around and play again the next fall. And we just didn't think that made a lot of sense to play football 3 consecutive semesters, to the health and well-being of these student athletes. And obviously I say health and well-being, and here we are playing in the middle of COVID-19, but we've been able to mitigate those risks well and have done well with testing. So, back to your point, Nathaniel, and your question was, how did we put together a schedule? So we had 11 games. The FCS can play 11 games. And so we had the kickoff classic against Austin. We had Missouri out of the SEC, and we had our non-conference games. And it was the middle of July, and the Big Ten decided to only play conference games. At that point, that was their decision. And so Arkansas State lost Michigan, $1.8 million payout. They lost that game. And I remember in the middle of July, I texted the AD at Arkansas State, and I said, I bet you we lose Missouri. Similarly, the SEC will do what the Big Ten did. I bet you we lose that one. So let's look at playing. And we both have September 19th available. Let's play that date. And he's like, hey, thanks for reaching out. Let's talk again next week. We'll see what happens, kind of thing, kind of putting me off a little bit. But I was thinking, well, that's the only game. We hadn't lost any games at that point, but I was thinking the SEC will probably do the same thing, so we better get ready. So that kind of started the process of who all would be available to play if we needed it. I still didn't think our conference was going to push our conference schedule to the spring, but lo and behold, it's the middle of August now. Our ADs have been on calls. The issue was we can't get access to testing, and we can't afford the testing. And so most of our schools decided they just couldn't do COVID testing protocols as was now required by the NCAA. And so they were going to have to postpone. And we were like, but we can do the testing. Our hospital's across the street. We get great access to it. We get results in a timely manner. We want to forge ahead, and we want to play. So boom, 9 games gone. I had been researching who all had available dates. So I just started sending out requests. Hey, we have now, we've got 10 games we need to replace. Arkansas State quickly did take us on that September 19th date. And so now we needed up to 9 more games. And so we quickly filled 8 of them. I had been talking to FCS friends who were going to play Missouri State and Eastern Kentucky. Everybody needs home games. So they weren't willing just to come to our place, and we weren't willing just to go to their place. So that's why we're doing home and homes. That's why we're playing them twice each. Well, that quickly filled up 4 games. So then since the SEC and the Big 12 dropped their non-conference contests, actually the Big 12 was going to play 1, but since many of those non-conference were dropped, the Sun Belt Conference and Conference USA, they all needed games. And so they were all reaching out to us too. We probably could have played 11 road FBS games for money this year. I mean, there was that much demand out there. So
you ever think about doing
that? Well, the funny thing is our coach would have done it. He was willing to play anybody, anytime. So that doesn't mean we're going to win every game, but he was willing to play. But it wouldn't have been fair to our student athletes and fans not to have some home games. So we quickly decided cooler heads prevailed. We better not play so many. But Louisiana Lafayette was really intent on wanting us to play, and we had a date. Gosh, his date moved from October and then ended up, now it's the last playing date of the year, November 21st for the FCS. So we're playing them then. And then, our kickoff classic stayed. Luckily, Austin Peay was willing to play. They played, I think, 3 games this fall. So they wanted to keep that game, rightfully so. They needed to, because it's ESPN and we're the only game on. They needed that exposure just like we did. So we had that game. And so all of a sudden, UAB, I'm kind of talking to South Florida. We thought we needed the second weekend off, which is really the week 1. We needed week 1 off because we played week 0. Week 1 is always Labor Day. And I thought, let's take that one off and see how everything goes after that first game. Because who knew, were we going to spread COVID to each other during the game? Nobody really knew. So we thought we needed that date off. And then we wanted to play September 12th. So South Florida had September 12th. I was pushing them hard for it. They never would commit. And so the AD at UAB calls me and is pushing to play on week 1. And I'm like, we kind of want that one off. And he said, well, not only week 1, but we need to play on Thursday night of week 1, September 3rd, because we're playing Miami the next Thursday. So we need that week off. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. Y'all need the week off, but we don't, so you're going to give us 5 days, but it ended up working out. So we drove to Montgomery. We stayed one night in Montgomery. We played the football game. We drove to Birmingham, and they put us up in their campus hotel for 5 nights. They did 2 rounds of COVID testing because they required that for Conference USA. And so we played 2 games in the span of 5 days. So we had the first FCS game. We had the first FBS game of the year. And then crazy enough, we didn't play again for 23 days because Arkansas State, who we were supposed to play on September 19th, had too many COVID positives. So they postponed our game now to October 10th. So it's been a whirlwind, really. And the funny thing is, guys, we're supposed to play Arkansas State on October 10th. They had to cancel or postpone their previous game too after ours, which was Tulsa. And the only mutual date Tulsa could play them was October 10th. So now they may push our game to December 5th. And so I'm supposed to find out today, are we playing Arkansas State on October 10th, which is, by the way, about 11 days away, or are we going to play them on December 5th? And so that's the way this football season is. We still don't know if we're going to play next week or not. So it's wild.
It sounds like a really relaxing process.
Yes. It's exciting but stressful. That's how I describe it. We are getting on a plane Friday and heading to Fargo, North Dakota, though. So that's going to be an amazing trip for these students. And they're pretty good, guys. They're pretty good.
That's what we've heard.
Yeah. I did see an article today. They have 23 NFL scouts coming to the game because their quarterback is projected top 3 or 4, something like that. So something to look out for.
That's probably going to be great exposure for your program too.
Yeah. What's interesting, Andrew, is as we started scheduling and, we had the kickoff classic, that was a big deal. We had 3 FBS games, so we got a lot of pub for that. But the one that really garnered us the most attention nationally was that we were the only team willing to go to Fargo. And so we got a lot of recognition for that, or maybe some condolences, but nonetheless, we're glad to be going.
Can you talk a little bit more about how that game came together?
Yeah, Calvin. So the Missouri Valley Conference had decided they were going to allow their programs to play 3 in the fall and 8 in the spring. And so that's what they're doing. And so Missouri State, who we were playing twice, they also played Oklahoma. So that's their 3. Well, I can only assume North Dakota State reached out to many schools to try to get their 3 games this fall. They even reached out to us early on, and I just put them off a little bit, just saying, hey, we're trying to find games in our region, proximity games. So that's a little out of our reach. We don't want to pay for travel to get there. And they're like, oh, we understand. Well, all of a sudden, our schedule set real quickly. We got those 4 FCS games real fast. All of a sudden, UAB had clicked. Actually, UAB came after, but Lafayette clicked and Arkansas State clicked. And I called North Dakota State back and said, hey, if you're still looking for games, we'd like to come up there. What could you pay us? Because we didn't, and they said $200,000, which was as much as the FBSs were paying. So we're like, okay, we can afford to go up there for that because we got a chartered airplane. That's $80,000, and then the rest of the expenses. But nonetheless, they said, great. Okay, we'll get back with you tonight. This was their football ops person. And that night, the AD called me, who I know through just FCS stuff. And he's like, you know what? Y'all are the only team who was willing to come, so we're not going to play this fall. We're just going to wait and play in the spring. And we just couldn't put it together, and I'm sorry to string you along. I said, hey, no, I get it, no problem. Well, the next week, that AD called me and said, we've been talking to our football coaches and to our program and our president, and we want to give our seniors, a senior day, and we want to give our NFL prospects, at least a game to be seen. Would y'all still be willing to come up here? And we're like, yeah, absolutely. So that's how it worked out. So we're the only game they're playing this year. So is that an advantage or disadvantage? I don't know. Do you really prepare well for one game, or do you really prepare well for one game? So
that's incredible. Yeah, that's awesome.
I think it's amazing that nobody was willing to play them. As you said, there's 23, 24 NFL scouts. And as an FCS program, I got to imagine it's got to be good if you get a couple scouts, let alone 23, 24. I remember when I was getting recruited to play college baseball, when 5 college scouts showed up, I was excited, let alone
Right.
play in front of 23, 24 NFL scouts. I mean, if I was an AD and they were going to pay me to come up there, I think that would be a no-brainer. You guys could slaughter me. You could beat me by 50. I do not care.
Absolutely. Well, I hope we play well, but
Always the hope.
and no doubt. And we have a cornerback who's projected to be a top 2-round guy, maybe a 2nd-round kid. So happy for him, you know. And then there'll be others that get seen that you know maybe we didn't realize. So just that exposure is great for our student athletes. And then again, it's going to be on TV. Another game we're going to have where we can, you know, the nation can watch the Bears play. So it's fun to have that brand. We've been told we kind of reignited or kickstarted football again. And you know, we've been playing this thing since October 29th. And here we go, Big Ten and Pac-12 and the MAC decide they want to play again. So it can be done. I mean, it really can.
It's funny how you said the Bears are back on TV, because I have watched more of your games this year than I think I have ever in the past. And we've been college football fans forever. I watched week 1. I mean, anytime you guys are on TV, and I think that's something we've talked about on prior podcasts. You guys have done a wonderful job getting on ESPN and filling those spots. And we're diehard college football fans, so we'll literally watch anything. And I know your team way better than I know any FCS program in the country.
Well, can you help our quarterback get back on track?
I don't know what to say. I mean, maybe.
No, I'm kidding.
He looked good early. He looked really
player.
good the first 2 games.
Yeah. Everybody's, you know, everybody can have a pass. You can't play your best every single time, right? So no worries. We're excited for him. He's going to do well. We got 2 great receivers, well, really more than that, but 2 really well-known receivers. So they'll get seen by these scouts, and I'm happy for them.
So you talked a little bit about the Southland Conference and the meetings you guys had prior to deciding what you guys are going to do about COVID. We've heard about, you know, different conferences having these meetings, how they're gone. How did it go for you guys? Obviously, you mentioned that they didn't have the money for testing. You guys did because you had the hospital right there. Were there people that were trying to get things done, or were there people that were really just looking for a way out instead of a way to play?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I don't know for sure. My theory is everybody wanted to play. You know, I mean, that's just kind of the nature of sports, right? We're all competitive. So my guess is every single one of us were trying to play. They just knew the realities of the costs. I mean, think about this. We're testing 350 a week in all sports, and that's a 1 test a week, right? The Big Ten's going to test every day. So and tests are around $100. So, you know, you're $35,000 a week just doing 1 test. So imagine the FCS budgets. You just can't afford that to go. I mean, in a month, you're over, you know, $140,000. You can't do that every month. That's just too much. So, I mean, I get it. So we were fortunate that we had a discounted rate and we had really, really great access. And, you know, here we go to basketball. The NCAA is requiring 3 tests a week for all programs, not just the Big Ten or the SEC. I mean, everybody. Our conference is going to have to, if we play basketball, we got to test 3 times a week. Now, we're ready to do it. I hope the rest of our members are as well.
If maybe, what if they aren't? Are you guys going to go through the same, try to do an out-of-conference schedule once again? If the Southland, other members of the Southland aren't ready to make that commitment?
We would. We sure would. But I have to imagine that as important as basketball is to every athletic program, obviously the tournament that comes in March. So I think they're going to figure out how to do it. They have to. You know, it's a smaller squad, right? But it's 3 times a week. So, you know, you're getting close to football numbers on a weekly basis with men's and women's. But I bet they will. I mean, again, I guess we started testing in July, and that's when, you know, our members of our conference decided that probably wouldn't be feasible for them. So now they've gotten, you know, here we come to November, they've gotten 4 months to try to figure it out. So hopefully they have.
I want to talk a little bit about the Central Arkansas Athletic Department as a whole under you and your tenure. You made a lot of jumps. You guys went from D2 to D1 while you were there. How is the growth that has happened there? Say about the decisions that you've gone through, and talk about a little bit of the growth that you've been at Central Arkansas. Yeah,
you know, I came here in 2007, and Central Arkansas was in the year 1 of the 4-year transition from D2 to D1. So I came in right in the middle of that first year, and it's tough. It's, you know, to transition to Division I and it takes 4 years, you're not eligible for any postseason play. So here we're recruiting student athletes. You have to tell them you're never going to the playoffs, not your conference playoffs, not NCAA playoffs. You will not go to the playoffs. And that's hard. We also had to prove ourselves academically. We had to prove ourselves with Division I rules, with finances. So that's why it's a 4-year process, because I want to make sure you can sustain and handle all of the qualifications for Division I. We were fully activated as an active member of Division I in 2010. So, here we are. We're in our 15th Division I season, again, 10 years as a full active member, and things have gone well. So we've added beach volleyball. So we went from D2 to D1, we added women's indoor and outdoor track and field, as well as men's indoor track and field. And then we added beach volleyball about 4 years ago. So we have 18 sports, and that's the most in our conference. And so we've got about 470 student athletes. It's a big program, and we're happy about that and proud of that. And, that's really, at the end of the day, the main focus we have 3 really main principles, and the main one is the student athlete experience. And so we want to make sure that we do everything we can to provide a great experience that really culminates with graduating, but to provide a great experience for all our student athletes.
How hard was it truly to get recruits during that time when you were transitioning? Because I can imagine being told that I'll never go to the playoffs, NCAA or conference playoffs. That must have been really tough.
It was, the first year, that student athlete who came would never go to the playoffs. The second year, their senior year, they go to the playoffs. The third year, you get junior, so it matriculates through, but it was tough. And the crazy thing is we won the conference championship in football in the second year of our transition, and they couldn't give us a trophy, and we couldn't go to the playoffs.
Wow.
If they gave us a trophy, then they would have lost their automatic qualification to the NCAA tournament football championship. So we were 6-1 that year. Texas State was 5-2, and we beat them head to head, and they were declared conference champions, and they went to the NCAA tournament. So that was a tough pill to swallow. We were also very good in other sports, and we were not so good in some others. So, you take your lumps and you make it through. And so now we're doing really well.
We have a lot of high school recruits that listen to this podcast as well. And obviously based out of Maine, we have a lot of New England kids that listen to this. And we've had a lot of, I go to school in the NE10, and we've had 2 programs leave the NE10, UMass Lowell and Merrimack College, that have gone up to Division I. And Merrimack is currently sitting in that process of the 4-year process of getting weaned into Division I. So I think it's definitely a question that a lot of people have, how that process goes.
Yeah, and now, you have to have a buy-in fee of over $1 million to go to Division I now. When we did it, it was $50,000. So now it's $1 million. So you really have to be committed to wanting to go to Division I. It's significant.
That's incredible.
So you have been in charge of hiring a lot of great coaches and upgrading facilities at Central Arkansas, including that awesome purple and gray football field. What kind of work goes into such massive upgrades to your programs?
Well, you got to have the money, Andrew. So that's where it starts. I've been here a long time, so obviously I've gotten to see a lot of change, and we've been able to affect every single facility in some way, whether it's a major construction or a renovation or just some minor enhancements that make a major difference to every single facility. And again, 18 sports. So proud of that. We started with a master plan for our facilities, and we just went down our priority line and either had to raise money for or get the school to help us with various facilities. And the football field, the stripes, was installed in 2011. And it's kind of a funny story. We were the last. Do we have time for this?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
We were the last football team in our conference with natural grass. Everybody had synthetic turf. This is 2010. And we kind of thought it was maybe an advantage. We were the only ones with grass. People don't practice on it. So we thought it gave us some kind of competitive advantage. The problem was, we get a lot of rain here in the fall, and it does get actually cold in Arkansas come November. So the grass doesn't grow. It turns brown. So it's pretty ugly. And we wouldn't let our football team on the field because we didn't want them to tear up the turf. So they had to practice, not on the football field really ever. We'd let them come in on Sunday night, but then we needed the whole week for the grass to recover. So the football coach at that time and I finally decided you know what, we might want to go to turf because of the practicing applications. I mean, we turfed inside of this used to be the track and field used to be in our stadium. So we turfed the whole area inside what was the track and field. So it's just big area. So you even had plenty of room outside of the field itself in the end zones, the D areas of track and field to practice. And you could practice all the time, anytime. So it really gave them a lot more opportunities to be able to do so. So when we decided to go turf, our marketing person and our creative person and myself sat down at the computer, and the creative person throws up he throws up Oregon's field. At that time in 2010, Oregon had every 5 rows was a different shade of, it was shaded green. So you had a dark and a light, and a dark and a light, you know, all the way every 5 yards. And it looked cool, you know, and he threw our logos in there, man, it looked really good. And he said, well, let me show you one other thing and see what you think. And all of a sudden he throws in purple and gray stripes. And I was like, whoa, now that's pretty cool. But I'm not making that decision. So we ended up having we brought in, we had a night where we brought everybody in to vote on the field they would like to see. And we gave them 5 options. We gave them that first green field. We gave them the purple and gray field. We gave them an all purple field. We gave them every 10 yards, purple and gray. And then we gave them the purple zones. Instead of the red zone, we had an all gray field, but inside the 20s was purple. So we called them the purple zones. Yeah. So we had 5 options. And I said, look, I can't make that decision. We brought in coaches, student athletes, donors, sponsors, faculty, staff. I mean, just all the constituents we could. Probably had 150 people in a room. And I went through the whole presentation and I said, now it's time to vote. Boom. And that original 5 yards purple and gray won. And so now I could say, hey, I didn't select it. They selected it, but it's absolutely the one we wanted. So we knew we were going to do that. And we announced it on April Fool's Day, 2011. And everybody thought we were kidding, and we weren't. And so it gave us a lot of national play. It was pretty cool. We actually got that idea. The previous April Fool's Day, LSU came out with an all purple field and announced it that way. And they were kidding. We were not. So people still didn't know. They didn't know until about June when we started installing it. And they were like, oh my gosh, they were serious. So it's been good for us. Now it's our slogan, Fear the Stripes. People know us as the Stripes. You know, it got us some recognition nationally that we wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So it's been good. And at the end of the day, the recruits love it. So that's really what matters.
Oh, I could see selling that to recruit easily. Who wouldn't want to play on a purple and gray field? You just don't see that anywhere else. That's why I love it.
So we're Andrew and I are student athletes, and as I was going through your bio, I was extremely impressed with what you've done academically down at Central Arkansas. When you took over, the average GPA was a 2.75. Now it's a 3.18, and the graduation rate has increased 25%. How are you able to do this? And I just want to say how impressive it was.
Yeah, well, thanks. I mean, you know, obviously it's not just me. I mean, we've got a great team and a great academic staff here that really makes sure that we're doing the right things. But the big thing was the difference in Division II and Division I recruiting really helped our academics, because in Division II, you had lower test qualifications, standardized test scores, and GPA qualifications to be admitted into Division II than you did in Division I. You also in Division II had to just pass 24 hours a year. And in Division I, those 24 hours had to go toward a degree program. So that allowed us to graduate kids, because if you stay 4 or 5 years, you're going to graduate in Division I. In Division II, you really weren't taking hours toward a degree program at that time. That may be changed now.
No,
so,
it's still a problem. I'm in Division II, and it's still
okay.
the same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and I was Division II student athlete as well. But the focus, Division I requirements, you know, really set up the student and the student athlete to be able to succeed academically and graduate. And then we were just getting better students, so they were having better GPAs, and we're actually at a 3.2 now, which is awesome. I mean, to be able to tout that we have a 3.2 cumulative GPA among all 18 sports is incredible. And the only sport under a 3.0 now is football, and they're at 2.85. So I mean, it's nothing to, you know, shake a stick at. So we're pretty happy about it.
Absolutely.
So if you were permitted to say, which I know you may not, what other big things will be coming for the University of Central Arkansas Athletic Department in the coming years?
Yeah, you know what? We have great goals and aspirations, absolutely. Some of which I really cannot talk about. So we'll see what happens, and it's not an April Fool's joke either. So you know, really,
If you
Andrew,
ever
what we
feel like leaking anything, you
yeah,
have our emails. We can get it
try
out.
to get
We're more than willing to do it.
you try to get it out. What we have to maintain is our principles of student athlete experience, a fan and donor experience, and a great program image. And we're always going to make sure we're doing that. And if we're on that track, then things will be very positive for our program and our institution. And we want to make sure that we're, you know, positively supporting this institution and not negatively affecting it. So that's really our ultimate global goal as we move forward.
Well, Dr. Teague, thank you so much for your time. We really had a great time sitting down talking with you.
Thanks for asking me. I really do appreciate you finding me and reaching out, and I enjoyed being with you guys, and I would do it again if you ask. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
We definitely will.
All right. Y'all have a great week.
Thank
You
you.
too.
See you.